Again, we have another short agenda, so speedily, we'll get through this very quickly. So I call the Committee on Academic Policy, Programs, and Research to order, and we'll begin with item 1, a report from the Executive Vice Chancellor and University Provost Cruz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You have in front of you a report that's really just a sample of activities that the Office of Academic Affairs is engaged in, and we thought would be good to bring to your attention. There are approximately 13 small descriptions of projects that we have underway in the areas of research, adult education, professional development for department chairs, early childhood programs, and career development and engagement initiatives. I'll just take a couple of minutes to talk about 3 of the main items because they may have further conversations that will happen at this table in the future. First of all, a conflict of interest policy. As I had mentioned in a previous meeting, we are working through our governance structures to develop a new conflict of interest policy. The policy is currently being expanded so that it will be applicable to sponsored programs in addition to sponsored research. And the proposed revisions to the policy were shared with the University Faculty Senate and other key constituents for feedback. We have received several comments from the UFS, and we are scheduling some additional conversations to ensure that we can address them before we bring them to this body for consideration. The next topic I want to bring your attention to is a task force on foreign influence that has been established. The committee, or the task force, has already met once, and is also going to be meeting at the end of this month to discuss guidance that will be then shared with our campuses to ensure that we're meeting all expected regulations around the responsible compliance regarding foreign influence in research work. And finally, wanted to alert the committee that we are embarking in the administration of a research climate survey that is a benchmark survey that we are contracting to bring to CUNY, and it will be implemented in the near future. It will allow us to get a sense of what the research integrity climate looks like across our campuses. It will allow us to assess educational and mentoring approaches as well as gaps, documenting and demonstrating institutional commitment to research integrity for external sponsors and government agencies, and informing future actions to foster integrity in research. So I just wanted to bring those to your attention. Those are conversations that will be ongoing. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Yes,
A question for the provost. I assume the research climate survey will be done in the wake of the external report we received last year in terms of research at the university?
Yes.
Okay.
The actual instrument that will be used is a standard instrument that will allow us to benchmark across the country. But it will certainly address some of the issues that came out of that report.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. So now we'll take on the following items for approval. I'd like to address action item 2A, which is the approval of the minutes of the November 25th, 2019 meeting. I move the approval of action item 2A. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? That is approved. And now I'd like to address action item 2B on the policy calendar. This is a resolution requesting the establishment of an AS in public and nonprofit administration at the Borough of Manhattan Community College. I'll now call on Provost Cruz to further provide us information.
In response to growing industry demand for professional administrative and management skills in the nonprofit sector, the AS in Public and Nonprofit Administration at BMCC will train students in the areas of strategic planning, marketing, human resource management, and finances, with an emphasis on more transparency and accountability in nonprofit management. The program will prepare students in the sector by offering them in-classroom and hands-on training and skills, such as understanding key performance metrics and related outcomes for assessing public and nonprofit organizations' performance, conducting research and interpreting associated data program development, developing, evaluating, and advocating for public policies promoting the mission and goals of public and nonprofit organizations with a focus on equity and inclusion and social justice. I now invite Erin Wong, Acting Provost and Senior Vice President, and Peter Huntis, Assistant Professor of Business Management, to provide additional information regarding this proposal.
Good afternoon. Basically, as the Executive Vice Chancellor pointed out, this is an outgrowth out of a strong demand that we see for this program. As we know, in the tri-state area, the three growth areas are healthcare, IT, and business. The nonprofit has been an underutilized area, and there's a large demand for it, and we see this being a successful in-demand program where students will also successfully transfer to John Jay and to Baruch in their public affairs and public administration programs. I can ask Professor Huntis to speak more directly about the program.
I can tell you that on a national level, 10% of all the workforce who are employed in nonprofit organizations. Another 14% are employed in public service organizations, which makes up close to a quarter of all the employment in the country. In New York State, we have about 100,000 nonprofit 501c3s. 1/3 of them are located here in New York City. Of the top 10 private companies in New York City, 7 are 501c3s. So we see this as a great opportunity to work with some local high schools. We have one close to BMCC at Trinity Place. It's a high school that was started by the Maxwell School at Syracuse University. It's a #1 school in public and nonprofit organizations. We're going to be working closely with those high school students and getting them into our program and our College Now efforts, and then hopefully successfully enroll them, and then without hesitation transferring them to one of the 2 best CUNY schools in public and nonprofit, which is Baruch and John Jay. I spent 35 years in nonprofit work. I am retired. This is a second career. I was a chief operating officer, executive VP for YMCA Greater New York. Employing people in our organization was my #1 priority. And if we had these kinds of associate degrees, we would be hiring these students immediately as childcare, after-school program managers, teen coordinators. So I see a great future for this program.
I was the head of a not-for-profit myself, and I understand that there's a major turnover, lots of people retiring that are CEOs of not-for-profits, so there's certainly a gap and a need
I
for
should have
trained
included that in the
people
proposal.
to come in, so.
No, it's
I think,
true.
yeah.
There is a major turnover
right.
in the key leadership positions, not only in the CEO spots, but also in the VP, executive VP roles too.
I have one question. I think I read that it requires 1 full-time faculty member.
That's me.
That's you. So you're already there, no new cost?
there.
Okay.
We're going to start it off, and I have a great network of folks in the field to help with adjunct positions as well.
How many?
We're ready to roll.
How many adjuncts are you going to need? Charlie wanted to know.
Was that a question to me?
I think so. Charlie, yes?
Initially, I believe it was 3, right?
Oh, yeah, we're going to end up with probably 3.
Quick question. I did not read this document in all honesty, but you mentioned that 7 of the top 10 501c3 are in New York.
No, what I said is that when you look at the top 10, the largest 10 private sector companies in New York City, in the private sector, we have the profit, we have the nonprofit. And of the top 10 private sector employers in New York City, 7 are nonprofits. And they're probably nonprofit universities like Columbia, NYU, or hospitals.
Okay, I was wondering whether
That's what I meant. I'm sorry.
No, you were very clear. I just didn't quite understand it.
Yeah, and at
But
the
I'm using-
state level, out of the top 10 private sector employers, 5 are nonprofits. So you can see that New York City has a higher concentration of this opportunity for our students to be gainfully employed in either nonprofit or public.
Does this group, or does this group of top nonprofits include the major foundations like Ford or Mellon or Carnegie?
Foundations are included not as public charities, but as 501c.
No, it's 501c3s.
Right.
But will this program be associated with them in any way? Will we tie in with those major organizations in any way?
You know, I see our job at BMCC is to get our students as prepared as we can to transfer seamlessly into Baruch and John Jay. The focus of this particular program is to give our students kind of the foundational, basic kind of coursework. So doing any kind of internship or those kinds of experiential learnings will be very moderated in the first 2 years. But I'm hoping at John Jay and Baruch that they will tap into some of those contacts and give students those experiences. Absolutely.
I would think that CUNY's initiative here would be of great interest to those organizations to know that this educational institution is prepping students to enter their world. So it's a two-way street, and I'm hoping we take advantage. I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I see that we have a two-pronged approach here. One is to go after the high schools that have a focus on leadership and public service, but also to let our nonprofit colleagues know that we have, students with associate's degrees that are ready to take on the team coordinator positions. And I started with the YMCA as a lifeguard at 18 years old, and I spent 35 years there. So I'm an example, and now I'm an assistant professor.
Any other questions?
I had a question about enrollments, perhaps a little more information. On page 9, you line out the annual retention rate target of 50% and your target graduation rate of 30%. I went back and checked the OIR data for your college, and that's about right. But given the university's emphasis on higher rates of graduation and retention through ASAP and others, do you foresee these numbers being higher? Or
It's possible. Those were conservative estimates.
Okay.
It's always easier to be conservative and ratchet up as opposed to be ambitious and then have to pull back.
Very good. Okay.
I was much more conservative, and then the administration said I had to be a little more aggressive. In my previous role, I used to always, under project and over deliver, and that way we would beat budgets and we'd be. But so I stretched the numbers a little bit more there, but I feel they're still conservative.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so if there's no other questions, I move the approval of policy item 2B3. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? I don't think so. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that passes.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So policy item 2B4 is a resolution to approve the action, is that right? No, did I skip 2B2? That didn't sound. 2B2 is a resolution requesting the establishment of an MA in News, Innovation, and Leadership at the Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism. Now call on Provost Cruz again to give us some background.
Thank you. In response to expressed demand from legacy media companies, as well as media startups, for innovative and forward-thinking leaders who rise to the unique challenges experienced by the current media market, the MA in News, Innovation, and Leadership at the Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism will prepare graduates through courses focused on pressing skills related to the field. The program will focus on business strategy, diversity strategies, change management, product management and development, revenue strategies, audience development, and customer centricity, all of which are essential skills for the current media landscape. The program will be modeled upon Newmark's 2019 Non-for-Credit program, which drew applicants from renowned domestic and international media organizations, such as the New York Times, Bloomberg Media, Univision, and the Financial Times of London. Newmark uniquely situated to answer the demand for uniquely situated to answer the demand for such a credit-bearing program, as the school operates in the heart of media, business, and technology in New York City and can call upon executives as faculty. I now invite our campus colleagues to provide additional input regarding this proposal. We have with us Dean Sarah Bartlett, Associate Dean Andrew Mendelson, and the Director of News, Innovation, and Leadership, Anita Sailina.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like me to
Sure.
sort of
Yes.
So this program has been in gestation for several years and really came about because we try to talk with a lot of executives in news organizations as a constant basis for our curriculum ideas. And we kept hearing from the leadership, the publishers and editors-in-chief, that they were needing people with skills that they didn't have, product development, audience engagement. things that were really relatively new from the digital era. And they were relying on a lot of young people coming into those areas who were often in their late 20s, early 30s, who had very limited management experience. And so, and some of them were our alums, and they were being put into leadership roles with none of the skill set to succeed in those roles. So sort of from the top and the bottom, we kept hearing there's a real market need for this. We also felt there was an opportunity. There has been another program that has tried to do management training. It's been based up at Columbia, and it hasn't really evolved for about 20 years. The person that was leading the program has subsequently left. There was sort of a vacuum, and we felt, given our sort of reputation as sort of digital-first school, that this created an opportunity for us. It took us a while to find the perfect person, Anita Zelina, to run the program. She has an MBA, so she's both led a newsroom in Europe as well as understanding the really serious business challenges that all news organizations face. So we've designed this program. We're doing a version of it right now that's launching in a few weeks, and we've been able to, the demand coming from, as you know, Provost Cruz said, from top organizations around the world has really been striking. And we have heard from our own, the board of our foundation, that Arthur Sulzberger, who's vice chairman, said this is the program that we need more than anything right now. So we're very excited about it. We feel that it will help us make the business case also that we're tapping a different pool of revenue for tuition. Almost half of the current not-for-credit version of this is being paid for by companies. And so unlike our current MA programs, at the executive level, we really see an opportunity to fund the tuition in a different way, which I think is an important plus for us. It also further cements our ties to these employers who will think of our students, I think, more commonly for student summer internships and for employment. So that's kind of the background for it, and happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
Questions?
Who's your expected audience? Is it people already in the industry?
It's people who already have some management experience, who are looking for more leadership skills, as well as learning. If you're in the product silo, you might need to know more about audience engagement and vice versa. So it's people who are already at senior. It's an executive program. It's people who are already in leadership.
And will
roles.
you continue the non-credit program at the same time?
No. I mean, we may do sort of 1 or 2 week boot camp sort of intensives if there seems to be a not for credit opportunity there, but our goal would be to have it for credit.
And I think you said that I think it's a $30,000 tuition, and there doesn't seem to be any pushback in terms of paying for that.
No, in
But
fact,
most
we also have a foundation. The Knight Foundation is paying for someone to enroll in the program in this current version. So, yeah, there's been, and it's very, we did an enormous amount of research on the pricing. It seemed reasonable.
Right. And no additional funds needed, right, at this point? No, great. It's always good to hear.
No, this is one of those happy occurrences where the funding is coming from the foundation to launch it, and the tuition will come to
cover
the
for the-
tax levy budget.
There you go. Perfect. Any other questions?
Well, since we have a short agenda and I'm still clawing for triple-digit IQ, could you give me a good example, or an example, not a good, just an example of what you mean by innovative journalism? Just,
I'm
I
gonna.
mean, it sounds.
She's the director of news innovation and
I would just
leadership,
love to have
so who
some-
better
No,
to answer
definitely.
that?
So I think what many of the participants work on in one way or the other is changing their organization to somehow adapt to the digital age, which means figuring out how to earn money as a media organization in the future. If it becomes rarer and rarer that people are buying print subscriptions, but then also figuring out how do we get the quality journalism that we used to have on paper on these things here, phones, iPads, and so forth. So it's a lot about change management, if you want, and figuring out how to provide quality journalism in the age of digital.
Relating print and digital
Yes.
more
Relating
effectively.
print, digital, broadcast, and digital. So really figuring out how to still provide quality journalism to audiences, even if they might consume it on a cell phone rather than on paper.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so I move did I already move this already or not? No, I move the approval of policy item 2B2. Do I have a second?
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
Thank you very much.
So policy item 2B3 is a resolution requesting the closure of the Department of Health and Physical Education at John Jay College of Criminal Justice. Provost?
Thank you. Due to the retirement of all full-time faculty in the Department of Health and Physical Education at John Jay College of Criminal Justice, and after consultation with the faculty of the Department of Counseling and Human Services, the college has concluded that there is no longer a need for such a department at the time being. The Department of HPE oversees only one minor degree, and it is inefficient to retain the academic department structure, as no new students have been admitted in the HPE minor since 2017. Therefore, it is recommended that the Department of HPE at the John Jay College of Criminal Justice be dissolved effective February 4th, 2020. I now invite Provost E. Lee to provide additional input regarding this proposal.
Good afternoon, everyone. Basically, as of last year, there's no full-time faculty, and according to the master plan of academic affairs, there has not been any plan to actually rehire full-time faculty into the faculty ranks of that particular department. And for several reasons. One is according to the CUNY policy, for an academic department, you need 5 full-time faculties. But secondly, we really have began to strategically direct our resources to address full-time coverage of some of our most critical academic programs instead of physical education. On the other hand, our course offering of physical education have continued. Currently, the program is not the department. We continue to offer about 50 courses per semester. It's currently being taken under the Department of Counseling Services. And the department actually, that particular department went through a full approval and started a new major of health services and community justice. And I think these two, physical education or physical health service versus health education, I think they have potentially great synergy for them to develop. So this is where academically currently being managed, even though the department itself is being closed.
Martin, you don't have any from faculty position, no problems with this?
Nope.
No? Okay. No. Any other questions? Seems pretty straightforward to me. All right, so I'd like to move for the approval of policy item 3B, 2B3. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Okay, thank you very much. And our thing here, our last item is a policy item 2B4, is a resolution to approve the actions in the CAPRA dashboard. I now again call on Provost Cruz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As the committee knows, routine academic matters, local academic policies, and course inclusions in the university's general education program are presented to the Committee of Academic Policy Programs and Research in summary form. Introduced a couple of months ago, the new CAPRA dashboard makes it possible for trustees to interact with this summary data. I hope that all of you have had a chance to explore the dashboard's tools and filters. A few highlights from this month's dashboard include the creation of 4 new concentrations, including the new concentration Sustainable Urban Agriculture within the Environmental Science Associate of Science degree at LaGuardia Community College, which will prepare students for careers in urban sustainability and food production in urban areas, 7 new undergraduate policies, 3 new graduate policies, and the classification of 14 new general education courses at 11 colleges, giving students more options in the areas of U.S. experience in its diversity, world, cultures and global issues, individual and society, creative expression, and more to fulfill their academic requirements.
Questions? Yes, Martin.
And again, I realize it's an ongoing process, but in terms of making this information more broadly available, since it is public, Could you give us an update on that process?
Yes, my understanding is that we are now in the process of contacting all of the provosts across the system in order to get the information of all of the users that will be granted permission to access the dashboard directly. So we expect all those that routinely interact with the dashboard to be given access, and we'll also welcome the participation of academic senators who may be involved with the curriculum and other areas that where the dashboard could prove helpful to be given access. So that process is ongoing. I believe that have we sent out the?
So after this week's academic council meeting, we're going to send out the matrix, which will then fill out. So we're happy to add names and information if we want user IDs and credentials for the dashboard.
Great, thank you.
Any other? Okay, so I move for the approval of policy item 2B4. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the item has passed. So with no more items on the agenda, I move to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Yes. Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Abstain?
You want to stay? You can stay.
No, it's abstain.
What was the same? I don't know.
All good?
What the names? You want names?